Emma Carter stared at her reflection in the dimly lit airport restroom of LAX, sighing as she ran her fingers through her wavy chestnut hair, trying to make herself look at least somewhat presentable. The harsh fluorescent lighting did her no favors, accentuating the exhaustion etched into her pale face. The dark circles under her hazel eyes were evidence of weeks spent juggling double shifts at Westwood Cafe, barely scraping by to support her 6-year-old son, Oliver. Her hands trembled slightly as she splashed cold water onto her face, willing herself to stay awake. She had no choice. She couldn't afford to miss this flight, not when the call from her Aunt Linda had shattered her world 2 nights ago. "Emma, you need to come now." Linda's voice had cracked over the phone. "Your mother, she's not doing well. The doctors say it could be any day now." That call had hit her like a freight train. Her mother, Carol Carter, had always been her rock, even when life had been merciless. Emma had spent the past few years trying to build a stable life for Oliver, but in the process, she had been too late to visit her mother back in New York. Now she was boarding a last-minute flight, praying she would make it in time. The only reason she was even able to afford this ticket was because of Linda's generosity. Emma could never have come up with the money herself, not with her rent overdue and Oliver's school fees looming over her like a storm cloud. This morning's goodbye with Oliver had nearly broken her. He had clung to her like a lifeline, his small hands gripping the sleeves of her worn denim jacket. "Mommy, why can't I come with you?" His big brown eyes had glistened with tears. "I don't want you to go." Emma had forced herself to smile, kneeling down and kissing his forehead. "Baby, I promise I'll call you every day. And I'll bring you back something super special from New York, okay?" It had been a lie, but she needed him to feel safe. What she hadn't told him was that she didn't even know if she would be coming back the same person, because if her mother didn't make it, nothing would ever be the same again. Her ex, David, had been standing in the doorway, arms crossed, his expression unreadable. Their relationship had ended on a sour note 2 years ago, and though they were civil for Oliver's sake, there was still a thick tension between them. "I'll take care of him," David had said gruffly, as if reading her mind. Emma had nodded, swallowing the lump in her throat. No matter how complicated their past was, she had no choice but to trust him now. Final boarding call for Flight 7A to New York City. The announcement over the speakers jolted Emma back to reality. She grabbed her battered leather handbag and sprinted through the terminal, her scuffed sneakers pounding against the polished floor. She barely made it to the gate before the attendant was about to close the doors. "Wait, please," she gasped, holding out her boarding pass. The attendant's stern expression softened slightly as she scanned the ticket. "Go ahead, hon. Seat 14C." Emma hurried down the jet bridge, her heart hammering. As she entered the plane, she took a shaky breath, scanning the row numbers. "Row 14. She froze. Sitting in the window seat beside hers was a man who looked like he had stepped straight out of a business magazine. His tailored charcoal suit fit him flawlessly, his crisp white shirt open at the collar, just enough to hint at a lean, muscular frame. His dark hair was neatly styled, but it was the sharp, emerald green eyes that caught her off guard. He was reading a leather-bound book, his fingers effortlessly turning the pages. But as Emma struggled to hoist her carry-on into the overhead compartment, his gaze lifted. The moment their eyes met, something in his expression shifted. Without a word, he stood in one fluid, effortless motion and took the bag from her hands, lifting it into the compartment as if it weighed nothing. "Let me help," he said, his voice smooth, carrying a slight British accent. Emma's breath caught in her throat. She wasn't used to kindness from strangers, especially not from men who looked like they belonged in penthouse suites, not cramped economy class seats. "Thank you," she murmured, sliding into her seat awkwardly. He resumed reading, But Emma could still feel his presence beside her, a quiet strength, a presence that was both intimidating and oddly comforting. She tried to focus on the view outside the window as the plane taxied down the runway, but the weight of exhaustion was too much. Her body betrayed her, her eyelids growing impossibly heavy. She tried to fight it, tried to stay awake, but the last thing she remembered was the sound of the plane taking off, and the warmth of something solid beside her as her head gently tilted to the side. Emma didn't know how long she had been asleep. But when she finally stirred, she realized with absolute horror that she had been using the stranger's shoulder as a pillow. She shot upright, her face flushing with deep mortification. "Oh my God," she gasped, yanking away as his expensive suit jacket slid off her shoulders. The man turned to her with a calm, unreadable expression, but then, to her utter disbelief, he smiled. Not a smirk, not an amused grin, but a genuine, warm smile that sent a strange flutter through her chest. "You needed the rest," he said simply, as if having a complete stranger drooling on him for hours was the most natural thing in the world. Before she could even think of how to respond, he pressed the call button above their seats. A flight attendant appeared almost immediately, her gaze flicking between them with knowing curiosity. "Could we have some water, please?" he asked smoothly. Emma blinked. I can get my own water." "I know," he said, tilting his head slightly, his green eyes glinting with something unreadable. "But I don't mind." And just like that, Emma Carter's world shifted in ways she never expected. If you're loving the story so far, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up. It helps us create more amazing content for you. Push pin, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next part of this unforgettable story. Emma clutched the suit jacket in her lap, her fingers gripping the fine fabric as she struggled to regain her composure. The warmth from where it had draped over her still lingered on her skin, making her feel strangely protected, even though the situation was deeply mortifying. "I really am sorry," she said again, clearing her throat. "I didn't mean to invade your space like that." The man, who had so effortlessly let her sleep on his shoulder, studied her for a moment. His sharp green eyes held no hint of irritation, just calm amusement. "I already told you," he said, his voice smooth. "It's fine. You looked exhausted." His British accent gave his words an effortless elegance, as if everything he said was meant to be comforting. Emma had no idea how to respond. As if sensing her discomfort, he extended a hand toward her. "Liam Callahan," he introduced himself. His name caught her off guard. She had expected something different, something even more intimidating. Emma hesitated before shaking his hand. His palm was warm, his grip firm yet gentle, radiating a quiet strength. "Emma Carter," she said, forcing a small smile. "Emma," he repeated, as if tasting her name. "Nice to meet you." She nodded, suddenly aware of how ordinary she must look sitting beside him. Her faded jeans, worn-out sweater, and scuffed sneakers were in stark contrast to his tailored suit, pristine dress shirt, and expensive watch. "So," Liam leaned back slightly, "heading to New York for business or pleasure?" Emma let out a humorless laugh. "Neither." Liam raised a brow, but didn't push. The flight attendant returned with 2 bottles of water, offering Liam a smile that was just a bit too warm. "Here you go, Mr. Callahan," she said sweetly, then turned to Emma. "Miss." Emma caught the subtle change in tone, but ignored it. "Thank you," she murmured, twisting the cap off her bottle and taking a sip. "Do you fly this route often?" she asked, realizing she knew nothing about the man beside her. Liam exhaled a soft chuckle. More times than I care to admit. Work keeps me in the air more than on the ground. What kind of work? There was a brief pause, barely noticeable. Business consulting, he said smoothly. Mainly international markets. Emma frowned slightly. It sounded vague, purposefully vague. That explains the suit, she teased lightly, trying to ease her nerves. Liam smirked. And what about you? What brings you to New York? Emma hesitated, gripping her water bottle a little tighter. Family emergency, she admitted, her voice quieter. Liam's expression shifted, the amusement fading into something softer. I'm sorry, he said sincerely. Emma forced a smile. It's okay, just hoping I get there in time. He didn't ask anything further, which she appreciated. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, the low hum of the plane filling the space between them. Outside the window, the sky was an endless stretch of darkness, dotted with faint stars. Emma hadn't expected this flight to be anything more than a stressful necessity. She certainly hadn't expected to meet someone like Liam Callahan. And she had no idea just how much this stranger was about to change her life. Somewhere over the Midwest, the flight attendants began their service again, offering coffee and light snacks. Emma rubbed her hands over her face, feeling the weight of exhaustion still pulling at her limbs. She needed caffeine, desperately. Coffee? Liam asked, noticing the way she blinked sluggishly. She nodded. As much as they'll let me have. Liam signaled the flight attendant, and within minutes, they both had steaming cups of coffee in front of them. Emma wrapped her hands around the warm cup, taking a slow sip. The bitter liquid did little to erase the exhaustion, but it was something. Liam watched her quietly. You have a kid, don't you? He said suddenly. Emma nearly choked on her coffee. Excuse me. Liam smirked at her reaction. You kept mentioning school fees in your sleep, and you have that look. That look, she repeated, raising a brow. That I haven't slept in 6 years, and caffeine is the only thing keeping me alive look. Emma snorted. Okay, that's fair. She reached for her phone and pulled up a picture of Oliver, holding it out to him. This is my son, Oliver. He just turned 6. Liam took the phone, studying the picture with a surprising amount of focus. He's got your eyes. Emma smiled. Yeah, and his dad's stubbornness. Liam glanced at her. You two still together? She shook her head. No, we divorced a couple of years ago. It was for the best. Liam nodded as if he understood. That's never easy. No, Emma agreed, her fingers tightening around her coffee cup. It's not. A beat of silence passed. Then Liam leaned back, stretching slightly. I don't have kids, but my sister has 2. I see that same exhausted look on her face every time I visit. So you have siblings? Just one younger sister. She's a doctor. Works too much, just like me. Emma smiled. So it runs in the family? Apparently, he mused. There was something about the way he spoke, calm, measured, but guarded, as if he had learned to be careful with his words. Emma didn't push. She wasn't sure why she was even interested. But something about him intrigued her. She had spent the past few years surviving. She hadn't had time for small talk with handsome strangers and tailored suits. But tonight, on this plane, everything felt different. Maybe it was the exhaustion. Or maybe, just maybe, it was Liam Callahan himself. The soft hum of the airplane engines filled the space between them. Outside the window, the deep black sky stretched endlessly. broken only by distant flickers of city lights far below. Emma couldn't shake the awareness of Liam sitting beside her. He was composed, unreadable, the kind of man who never seemed out of control. And yet there was something beneath the surface, a restraint, as if he was holding back more than he let on. "So," Liam said after a moment, breaking the silence, "what does Oliver like, besides making his mom lose sleep?" Emma smirked, relaxing slightly. "Dinosaurs. The kid is obsessed. He knows every name, every era they lived in. If you let him talk about it, you'll be stuck listening for hours." Liam chuckled. "Sounds like my kind of kid. I was the same way when I was little. Used to drive my mother insane with dinosaur facts." "Oh, really?" Emma raised a brow. "What's your favorite one then?" Liam leaned back, pretending to think. Velociraptor. Fast, smart, underestimated." Emma laughed. "I should introduce you to Oliver. He'd respect that choice." Something flickered in Liam's expression at that, a brief, unreadable emotion. But before Emma could dwell on it, the plane lurched. A sudden jolt rocked the cabin, and a collective gasp rippled through the passengers. The seatbelt sign flickered back on as the captain's voice came over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, we've hit an unexpected patch of turbulence. Please remain seated and keep your seatbelts fastened." Emma's hands instinctively gripped the armrests. She wasn't usually afraid of flying, but this sudden drop in altitude sent her heart racing. Liam must have noticed because, without a word, he reached over and gently covered her hand with his. "Just turbulence," he said calmly. "Nothing to worry about." His voice was so steady, so sure, that Emma felt her pulse slow slightly. She glanced at their hands, his large, warm, completely steady, hers smaller, trembling slightly. She didn't pull away. The turbulence eventually passed, leaving a lingering sense of tension in the air. Emma took a deep breath, willing her nerves to settle. "Not a fan of flying?" Liam asked, retracting his hand as if sensing she needed space. "It's not that," she admitted. "I think it's just everything piling up." Liam nodded knowingly. "Makes sense." Emma studied him for a moment. There was something about him, something just out of reach. "What about you?" she asked. "You seem like the type who's always in control. Do you ever get nervous?" Liam smirked, but there was a shadow behind it. "Not often," he said simply. That answer felt too easy, too practiced. Emma wasn't sure why she cared, but she did. "So," she leaned back, mimicking his relaxed posture, "you're a businessman. You fly often. You read old classics on planes. You're strangely good at calming down a complete stranger. But you don't talk about yourself much. Why is that?" Liam's lips quirked. "I could ask you the same thing." Emma huffed a soft laugh. "Fair point." A beat of silence passed. Then, unexpectedly, Liam sighed and ran a hand through his dark hair, messing up its perfectly styled appearance. "All right, Emma Carter, let's make a deal." Emma raised a brow. "A deal?" "You tell me something real about yourself, and I'll do the same. No surface-level answers." Emma considered this. "Okay," she agreed, "but you go first." Liam exhaled, tapping his fingers against the armrest. "I wasn't always in control," he admitted. "When I was younger, my life was chaotic. I had to learn early on that if I didn't control things, someone else would." Emma blinked. That was more than she had expected. "Your turn," Liam prompted. Emma hesitated before speaking. "I always thought I'd be more than this." Liam tilted his head. "More than what?" Emma swallowed, suddenly feeling vulnerable. More than a waitress barely getting by. More than a single mom struggling to make rent. I used to have dreams, you know. But somewhere along the way, life happened, and I had to let them go. Liam was quiet for a long moment. Then he said something she didn't expect. Maybe it's time to get them back. Emma stared at him, something in her chest tightening. For the first time in a long time, she wondered if she still could. The soft chime of the flight attendant's announcement broke the moment. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be beginning our descent into New York shortly. Please return to your seats and ensure your seat belts are fastened. Emma's stomach twisted. It was almost time. She glanced at Liam, who had returned to his book, but his attention wasn't on the pages. His fingers tapped absently against the leather cover, his thoughts clearly elsewhere. Finally, he turned to her. Do you have a ride from the airport? Emma blinked. No, I was just going to take a cab. Liam nodded as if he had expected that answer. Let me give you my driver's number. He can take you wherever you need to go. Emma frowned. That's not necessary. I know, Liam said, but I'd like to anyway. She hesitated. Was this crossing a line? But as she stared into Liam's unwavering green eyes, she felt something she hadn't in a long time. Safe. She exhaled and nodded. Okay. Liam pulled out a sleek business card and handed it to her. She glanced at the elegant lettering. Liam Callahan, Callahan Global Holdings. Her breath hitched. She knew that name. Liam Callahan wasn't just some businessman. He was one of the most powerful corporate figures in the country. Emma slowly looked up at him. Business consulting, huh? She said dryly. Liam had the grace to look slightly amused. I may have understated that part. Emma shook her head, half exasperated, half intrigued. She should have been intimidated. But all she could think was, what the hell did I just get myself into? The plane had landed, and the cabin was filled with the familiar sounds of passengers gathering their belongings, overhead compartments clicking open, and seatbelts unfastening. But Emma sat still, staring at the business card in her hand. Liam Callahan. She wasn't someone who kept up with billionaires or corporate moguls, but even she had heard of Callahan Global Holdings. His name was in financial headlines, associated with major acquisitions and high-stakes negotiations. And she had just spent the past few hours sleeping on his shoulder. You okay? Liam's voice pulled her back to the present. Emma looked up to find him watching her, expression unreadable. You didn't mention you were basically a financial kingpin, she said, arching a brow. Liam chuckled, amused but not surprised by her reaction. I find introductions are smoother when I don't lead with that. Emma smirked despite herself. Right, because business consultant sounds way less intimidating. Liam lifted a shoulder in a lazy half-shrug. It served its purpose. Before she could respond, the flight attendant's voice came over the intercom. Thank you for flying with us. Welcome to New York City. Emma let out a slow breath. This was it. She was here, for her mother, for whatever awaited her in the next few days. And somehow, she had walked straight into the orbit of a man who lived in an entirely different world than hers. As the line of passengers shuffled forward, Liam effortlessly pulled down both of their bags. He handed hers to her, without a word. Thank you, Emma murmured, still thrown by everything. Liam nodded but didn't move away. My driver is waiting out front, he said. Come with me. He'll take you wherever you need to go. Emma hesitated. She should say no. This man had already done more than enough for her. But she thought about scrambling to get a cab, rushing through a city that didn't wait for anyone, her nerves already frayed from the weight of what awaited her at the hospital. And then she thought about Liam's steady presence, the way he had instinctively calmed her on the plane, the way he had never once made her feel small, despite how different their lives were. Finally, she nodded. Okay. Liam's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his gaze. And just like that, Emma Carter left the plane with a man who had the power to change her life forever. The moment Emma stepped outside, the cold air of New York hit her like a wave. The city was alive, horns blaring, lights flashing, taxis weaving through congested lanes. It was overwhelming. She had grown up here, but after years of living in California, she had forgotten just how loud and relentless the city could be. Liam's driver, a tall, broad-shouldered man in a black suit, was already waiting. He gave Liam a nod before opening the sleek black Bentley parked at the curb. Emma hesitated for half a second before sliding in. The interior was pure luxury. Leather seats, the faint scent of expensive cologne, the smooth purr of the engine as the door shut behind her. Liam slid in next to her, exuding an effortless confidence that only a man like him could possess. "Where to?" the driver asked. "Lenox Hill Hospital," Emma answered quietly. Liam's gaze flickered toward her, but he didn't ask anything. The car pulled away from the curb, seamlessly merging into the chaos of New York traffic. For the first few minutes, they sat in silence. Emma stared out the window, watching as they passed familiar streets, memories rushing back. Then, to her surprise, Liam spoke. "Do you have someone waiting for you there?" Emma exhaled slowly. "My aunt. She called 2 days ago to tell me my mom's condition had worsened." Liam nodded, his expression unreadable. "How long has she been sick?" he asked. Emma hesitated, not used to sharing this kind of thing with anyone, let alone a billionaire she had just met. "She was diagnosed a year ago, but I thought she had more time." Her voice wavered slightly at the end, and Liam picked up on it. "You would have come sooner if you could," he said, his tone even. Emma looked down at her hands. "Yeah." There was no pity in his gaze, just understanding. "You're here now," Liam said simply. Emma swallowed past a lump in her throat. "Yeah, I am." And for the first time since getting that phone call, she allowed herself to breathe. When they pulled up to the hospital entrance, Emma's heart pounded. This was it. "Thank you for the ride," she said, reaching for the door handle. But before she could step out, Liam's voice stopped her. "Emma." She turned, surprised to find something different in his expression. "If you need anything at all, call me," he said. She blinked. "Liam, you don't have to." "I know," he cut in smoothly, "but I want to." Emma stared at him, something unreadable passing between them. She had never needed saving. She had spent years figuring things out on her own. But something about Liam Callahan told her that maybe, just maybe, letting someone help wasn't the worst thing. Finally, she gave a small nod. "Okay." Liam's eyes held hers for a moment longer before he reached into his suit jacket and pulled out something. A second business card. "This one has my personal number," he said, handing it to her. Emma hesitated before taking it, her fingers brushing against his for the briefest second. "Take care of yourself, Emma." And with that, she stepped out of the car. As she walked toward the hospital doors, she could feel his gaze on her, but she didn't turn around. Because somehow, She knew this wasn't the last time she would see Liam Callahan. Not even close. Emma stepped through the hospital's sliding glass doors, the scent of antiseptic and sterile air hitting her immediately. The fluorescent lighting buzzed overhead as she scanned the crowded waiting area, her pulse quickening. Her Aunt Linda stood near the nurse's station, her face lined with exhaustion. When she spotted Emma, relief flickered in her eyes. "Emma, thank God you're here." Emma barely had time to nod before Linda pulled her into a tight hug. "How is she?" Emma whispered, afraid of the answer. Linda exhaled shakily. "She's stable for now. The doctor said last night was rough, but she pulled through." Emma felt the tension in her chest ease, just a little. "Can I see her?" Linda nodded. "Come on." They walked through the quiet corridors, past nurses moving between rooms, and the occasional murmur of hushed conversations. Every step made Emma's stomach twist. Then they reached the room. Emma hesitated before pushing the door open. Her mother lay in the hospital bed, looking smaller than Emma had ever seen her. The woman who had once been so full of life, who had raised Emma with strength and resilience, now seemed so fragile. Emma swallowed hard. "Mom," she said softly. Her mother's eyes fluttered open, and for a moment they were unfocused. Then recognition dawned, and a tired smile spread across her face. "Emma, you came." Emma rushed forward, taking her mother's frail hand in hers. "Of course I did." Tears burned at the back of her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. "I'm so sorry I didn't come sooner," she whispered. Her mother squeezed her hand weakly. "You're here now. That's all that matters." Emma sat by her side, letting the reality of the moment sink in. No matter what happened next, she wasn't going anywhere. After spending hours at the hospital, Emma finally stepped outside to get some fresh air. The cold night air stung her skin, but she welcomed it. She pulled out her phone, scrolling absent-mindedly. That's when she saw it. A text message from Liam. "Just checking in. How's your mother?" Emma stared at the screen, surprised. He barely knew her, and yet he cared enough to ask. Her fingers hesitated over the keyboard before she typed back. "She's stable for now. It was a long night, but I'm just grateful she's still here." A response came almost immediately. "Well, I'm glad to hear that. I meant it when I said if you need anything, let me know." Emma found herself smiling, a real, unexpected smile. "You really don't have to keep checking in on me, you know." "Liam, I know." Emma's heart did something strange in her chest. For years, she had learned to survive on her own, to rely on no one but herself. But for the first time in a long time, someone was offering to be there. And she wasn't sure if she was ready to accept that. The next morning, Emma was sitting beside her mother's bed when her phone vibrated again. "Liam." This time, it wasn't a text. It was a call. Emma hesitated before stepping out into the hallway and answering. "Hey," she said, keeping her voice low. "Hey." Liam's voice was smooth, but slightly different this time. "I was thinking, have you eaten yet?" Emma blinked. That was not what she expected. Not really." "Good, because I'm sending a car. Meet me for breakfast." Emma's mouth fell open. "Wait, what?" "Liam, I can't just leave. My mom." "I'm not saying you have to disappear for hours." He cut in smoothly. "Just take a break. I'll have you back before she even notices you're gone." Emma hesitated. She should say no. She should be focusing on her mother. not meeting up with a man who had already done more than enough for her. But before she could argue, Liam's voice softened. "Emma, when was the last time you did something for yourself?" She hated how that question made her pause. Because the truth was, she couldn't remember. Finally, she sighed. "Fine, but 1 hour, that's it." Liam chuckled. "I'll be outside in 10 minutes. And just like that, Emma Carter found herself making another decision she never saw coming. Emma stood outside the hospital entrance, rubbing her arms against the morning chill. She still wasn't sure why she had agreed to this. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was the fact that Liam had been unwaveringly kind in a way she hadn't expected. Or maybe, deep down, she was just curious about him. A sleek black car pulled up to the curb, the same one from last night. The driver stepped out and nodded politely. "Miss Carter?" Emma hesitated for half a second before nodding back. She slid into the back seat, sinking into the plush leather as the city blurred past the tinted windows. "What the hell am I doing?" 15 minutes later, the car pulled up in front of an elegant cafe tucked between towering glass buildings in Midtown. It wasn't the kind of place Emma had ever stepped foot in, the kind where businessmen in designer suits discussed million-dollar deals over imported espresso. And yet, here she was. The driver opened the door, and as soon as she stepped out, Liam was already waiting for her. Still in a tailored suit, still impossibly composed. "You made it," he said smoothly. Emma crossed her arms. "I don't recall having a choice." Liam smirked. "You always have a choice, Emma." She narrowed her eyes at him, but followed him inside. The hostess led them to a private booth in the back, away from prying eyes. Within minutes, a perfectly dressed waiter arrived with menus and a knowing smile. "The usual, Mr. Callahan?" Emma raised a brow. "The usual?" "Yes, and for her, bring a latte and the breakfast platter." Emma blinked. "Wow, just making my choices for me now." Liam leaned back, studying her. "You look like you need caffeine and actual food. Was I wrong?" Emma opened her mouth, then shut it. Damn it, he wasn't wrong. "Fine," she muttered, "but don't make a habit of it." Liam's smirk deepened. When their food arrived, Emma was shamelessly starving. She barely waited for Liam to say anything before digging in. "So," Liam said after a few minutes, "tell me something real." Emma swallowed her bite of toast. "We're doing this again?" "Yes, because I have a feeling you rarely let people in." Emma hesitated. "He wasn't wrong." She took a sip of her latte, stalling. "I used to want to be a journalist," she finally admitted. Liam's brow lifted slightly, like he hadn't expected that. "What happened?" Emma exhaled. "Life. I got pregnant, plans changed, and I had to figure out how to survive." Liam didn't respond immediately. Then softly he said, "That doesn't mean you have to stop dreaming." Emma looked up, something sharp twisting in her chest. "It's a little late for that." Liam's expression turned unreadable. "I don't believe that." Emma huffed a soft laugh. "Easy for you to say. You probably always knew you'd be successful." Liam went quiet for a beat, then said, "Not exactly." Emma narrowed her eyes. "What do you mean?" Liam sipped his coffee, then set it down. "I wasn't born into wealth, Emma. I built my company from nothing." Emma blinked, caught off guard. "Wait, seriously?" Liam nodded. "Grew up in a tiny apartment in Brooklyn. My dad was a factory worker, my mom a nurse. We had enough, but not much more than that. I learned early that if I wanted something different, I had to create it myself. Emma stared at him. She had assumed he was born into privilege, that he had always been one of those people who had everything handed to them. But hearing this, it made him feel different, more real. "Why did you never tell me that?" she asked. Liam smirked. "You never asked." Emma rolled her eyes, but for the first time since meeting him, she wondered, who exactly is Liam Callahan? And why did she suddenly want to know everything about him? Breakfast was winding down when Liam suddenly leaned forward, his green eyes sharp. "I have an idea." Emma tensed. "I feel like I should be worried." Liam ignored that. "You said you wanted to be a journalist, right?" Emma frowned. "Yeah, but what if I gave you a job?" Emma blinked. "What?" "Not at Callahan Global," Liam clarified. "I own a media company, one of the biggest independent digital news outlets in the country. I can get you in." Emma's stomach flipped. "Liam, that's insane. You don't even know if I'm good at it." Liam tilted his head. "I know you're smart, and I know you don't belong waiting tables forever." Emma felt overwhelmed. This was too much. "Why would you do this for me?" she whispered. Liam's gaze held hers. "Because I believe in second chances." Silence stretched between them. For years, Emma had convinced herself that this was it, that her dreams had died when Oliver was born, that she wasn't meant for more. But now, sitting across from Liam Callahan, she wondered. Maybe she had been wrong. Emma sat frozen, staring at Liam like he had just suggested she move to another planet. "You're offering me a job?" she repeated, her voice laced with disbelief. Liam leaned back in his seat, his sharp green eyes steady on hers. "Yes." Emma blinked. "Just like that?" "Just like that," Liam confirmed. Her heart pounded. This was insane. For years, she had fought to survive, convincing herself that her dreams were just that, dreams, something she had left behind the moment she became a mother. And now, a man she barely knew was handing her a chance to rewrite her life. "Liam, I appreciate this, but—" She hesitated, searching for the right words. "I haven't written professionally in years. I wouldn't even know where to start." Liam's expression didn't waver. "Then learn. You're smart. You have drive. You can figure it out." Emma let out a shaky breath. "It's not that simple." "It is," Liam said firmly. "You're the one making it complicated." Emma hated that he was right. She should have been jumping at this opportunity. But instead, doubt crept in, whispering in her ear. What if you fail? What if you're not good enough? What if you take this job and lose everything? And then there was Oliver. "I have a son, Liam," she reminded him. "I can't just take some high-profile job and hope it works out. I need stability." "And what part of waiting tables for minimum wage is stable?" Liam countered. Emma clenched her jaw. "I get it," Liam continued, his voice softer now. "You're scared, but don't let fear keep you in a place you've outgrown." Emma swallowed hard. She didn't know what scared her more, the thought of failing or the thought of finally succeeding. Emma spent the next few days going back and forth in her head. Her mother's condition remained stable, and Emma spent every waking hour at the hospital. But Liam's offer lingered in the back of her mind, taunting her. Then, on the fourth night, her phone rang. She glanced at the screen. Unknown number. Frowning, she answered. "Hello. Is this Emma Carter?" The voice was crisp, professional. "Yes, who's this?" "My name is Charlotte Grant. I'm the editor-in-chief at Callahan Media. Liam told me about you." Emma's stomach flipped. What?" "He asked me to take a look at your background," Charlotte continued. "And I'll be honest, I don't usually entertain favors. But I read some of the articles you wrote in college, and you have potential. So here's the deal. If you want it, there's a staff writer position open for you. No handouts, no special treatment. You'll have to prove yourself. But if you're serious about getting back into journalism, this is your shot." Emma's brain short-circuited. This was real. It wasn't just Liam throwing out an idea over breakfast. He had actually gone through with it. I don't know what to say," Emma admitted. "Say yes," Charlotte said bluntly. Emma exhaled. "Can I think about it?" "You have 24 hours. After that, the offer is gone." The line went dead. Emma sat there, phone in her lap, heart pounding. She had a choice to make. And for the first time in years, the future felt wide open. The next morning, Emma still hadn't made a decision. She walked into her mother's hospital room, mind spinning. "Morning, sweetheart," her mother greeted weakly. "Morning, Mom," Emma said, forcing a smile. Her mother studied her for a long moment. "What's on your mind?" Emma hesitated. She hadn't told her mother about Liam or the job offer. It felt too big to put into words. But before she could respond, there was a knock at the door. Emma turned and froze. Liam stood in the doorway, holding a bouquet of flowers. "I figured it was time I introduced myself," he said smoothly. Emma blinked. Her mother raised a brow, clearly intrigued. "And who might you be?" Liam smiled. "Liam Callahan, Mom. A friend of your daughter's." Emma could practically feel her mother's curiosity. "Well, Liam Callahan," she said, amusement in her tired voice. "If you're here to see my daughter, you must be important." Emma wanted to sink into the floor. Liam just smiled. "I'd like to think so." Her mother laughed. And for the first time in days, Emma felt something shift. Because whether she liked it or not, Liam Callahan was no longer just a stranger from a plane. Emma could not believe this was happening. Liam Callahan, the billionaire CEO, the man she had met by accident on a plane, the man who had somehow inserted himself into her life in the most unexpected way, was standing in her mother's hospital room, making conversation like it was the most natural thing in the world. And of course, her mother loved him already. "So, Liam," her mother said, a mischievous glint in her tired eyes, "are you my daughter's boyfriend, or do I need to set her up with someone?" Emma choked on air. "Mom," she sputtered. Liam, on the other hand, seemed completely unfazed. He leaned slightly toward Emma, his signature smirk firmly in place. "I'd say we're still in the negotiation phase," he mused. Emma glared at him. Her mother laughed. Emma sighed, completely outnumbered. After a few minutes of small talk, Liam stood and turned to Emma. "Can we talk?" he asked. Emma hesitated, then nodded. She followed him out into the hallway, arms crossed. "What are you doing here, Liam?" she asked, keeping her voice low. "Checking on you," he said simply. Emma exhaled. "You don't have to do that." "I know," Liam said, his gaze steady, "but I want to." And there it was again. That quiet, unwavering certainty that threw her completely off balance. "You spoke to Charlotte," Liam added. "Did she make you an offer?" Emma nodded slowly. She did. And Emma sighed. I don't know, Liam. It's a lot. I didn't ask for any of this. Liam studied her for a long moment. No, he agreed, but maybe you should start asking. Emma swallowed hard. Because maybe he was right. Maybe for the first time in years, it was time for her to stop surviving and start choosing. That night, Emma sat alone in the hospital waiting area, staring at her phone. Charlotte's words echoed in her mind. You have 24 hours. After that, the offer is gone. Emma exhaled sharply. Then, before she could overthink it, she dialed. Charlotte, she said when the woman answered. Yes. Emma clenched her fist. I'll take the job. A beat of silence. Then. Good choice. Be in my office Monday morning. The line went dead. Emma let out a slow breath. This was it. She was stepping into the unknown. And for the first time in a long time, she wasn't afraid. Emma stood outside the Callahan Media headquarters, nerves coiling in her stomach. The building was sleek, modern, and completely intimidating. Taking a deep breath, she walked inside. A receptionist greeted her and directed her to the 25th floor. The elevator ride felt interminable. When the doors opened, Charlotte Grant was already waiting for her. Emma, Charlotte said briskly, follow me. Emma hurried after her, overwhelmed by everything. The newsroom was a controlled chaos of voices, ringing phones, and the furious clicking of keyboards. Charlotte led her to a desk. This is yours, she said. Emma stared. She had an office, a real job, a second chance. I expect you to prove yourself, Charlotte added. Liam might have opened the door for you, but if you don't deliver, you won't last here. Emma lifted her chin. I wouldn't expect anything less. Charlotte smirked. Good, now get to work. And just like that, Emma Carter, former waitress, struggling single mom, the woman who thought her dreams were long gone, had stepped into an entirely new world. A few hours into her first day, Emma's phone buzzed. Liam, how's the first day? Emma smirked, texting back. Your editor is terrifying. That's why she's the best. Emma, I think I might die. You won't. You're tougher than you think. Emma stared at the words, something warm settling in her chest. Before she could reply, another message popped up. Liam, dinner tonight? You owe me for the job hookup. Emma rolled her eyes. Oh, so now I owe you? Liam, absolutely. Emma, fine. One dinner, but that's it. Liam will see. Emma sighed, knowing full well that when it came to Liam Callahan, nothing was ever just one thing. Emma tapped her fingers against the restaurant table, staring at the expensive menu in front of her. She had agreed to this dinner on one condition, that it wasn't in some absurdly fancy place where everything on the menu cost more than her weekly grocery bill. Liam had technically followed that request. The restaurant wasn't the kind with white tablecloths and chandeliers, but it was still far from the diners she was used to. Dim lighting, polished wood, and a view of the Manhattan skyline that looked too unreal to be real. And of course, Liam Callahan looked completely at home. You're tense, he observed, sipping his whiskey. Emma narrowed her eyes. You think? Liam smirked. Relax, it's just dinner. Dinner with a billionaire who casually changes my life in his spare time? Emma countered. Yeah, no pressure. Liam chuckled, setting his glass down. Would it make you feel better if I said I'm just a guy eating steak? Emma rolled her eyes. Not even a little. Liam laughed, the deep, rich sound sending something warm through her chest. As the meal went on, Emma found herself loosening up. Maybe it was the wine, or maybe it was the fact that Liam wasn't trying to impress her. He asked about her work, her childhood, all of her. He listened without interruption, like what she said actually mattered. And in return, she found herself prying a little more into his world. So, Mr. Billionaire, she teased, what do you do for fun, besides running empires and flying first class? Liam smirked. Would you believe me if I said I like boxing? Emma raised a brow. You? Boxing? Yes, he said, swirling his drink. It keeps me focused. Plus, hitting something after a long day is a great stress reliever. Emma studied him, picturing Liam Callahan, asterisk, asterisk, always composed, always in control, asterisk, asterisk, in a boxing ring, fists up, sweat dripping down his sharp jawline. She swallowed hard. I guess that makes sense, she muttered, looking away quickly. Liam didn't miss the shift in her expression. What? He asked, amused. Nothing, Emma said quickly. Liam smirked. And just like that, Emma realized this dinner was dangerous. Because the more time she spent around Liam Callahan, the harder it was to ignore whatever was happening between them. As they finished their meal, Liam leaned forward slightly. You're staying in New York, right? He asked. Emma blinked. For now. Why? Liam's gaze didn't waver. Because I want to see you again. Emma's breath caught. Liam. I'm not asking for anything serious, he interrupted smoothly. I just like spending time with you. Emma's heart pounded. This was a bad idea. A very bad idea. Liam Callahan wasn't just a man. He was a storm. And Emma wasn't sure she could survive getting caught in it. I don't know if that's a good idea, she admitted. Why? Liam asked. Emma hesitated. Because I don't fit into your world. Liam tilted his head. Who says I want you to? That answer stopped her cold. Because he wasn't asking her to change. He wasn't asking for anything except a chance. And that was more terrifying than anything. Emma sat on her small apartment couch, staring at her phone. Liam's text was still unread. Liam, dinner was fun. Let's do it again. Emma sighed. She should ignore it. She should walk away before things got complicated. But she found herself typing instead. Maybe. Liam, I'll take that as a yes. Emma smiled. And just like that, she knew. She was already in trouble. The following week passed in a blur. Emma spent her days drowning in deadlines at Callahan Media, proving to Charlotte that she deserved the job. Her nights were spent at the hospital, checking in on her mother and pushing away thoughts of Liam. But Liam Callahan wasn't the kind of man who stayed on the sidelines. Every few days, he would text, casual, effortless, like he wasn't the most powerful man in every room he walked into. Liam, survived the newsroom today? Emma, barely. Liam, sounds like you need a distraction. Emma, I swear if you say dinner. Liam, fine. Lunch. Emma smiled at her screen, but she didn't reply. Because every time she considered meeting him again, A quiet voice in the back of her head whispered, "This is a bad idea." And she wasn't sure if she was strong enough to ignore it. Emma had just left the hospital when her phone buzzed again. Liam. This time, it wasn't a text. It was a call. Emma hesitated before answering. "Hey," she said, keeping her voice even. "Hey." Liam's voice was smooth as ever. "What are you doing right now?" "Just leaving the hospital," Emma replied. There was a beat of silence. "How's your mother?" Liam finally asked. Emma exhaled. "Stable. That's the best we can hope for." Liam didn't say anything for a moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was lower, quieter. "I know you don't like asking for help, but if you need anything—" "Liam," Emma cut in, "I appreciate it. I do. But I'm fine." Liam let out a soft chuckle. "You say that a lot." "Because it's true." Liam hummed, unconvinced. "All right then. Since you're fine, come to an event with me this weekend." Emma stopped walking. "Excuse me." "A charity gala," Liam said casually, like he hadn't just dropped a bomb on her. "I need a date." Emma blinked. "Liam." "Before you say no, think about it," Liam interrupted smoothly. "It's just one night, free food, an open bar, and the chance to wear a ridiculously expensive dress on my dime. What's the worst that could happen?" Emma let out a breathless laugh. "You really don't take no for an answer, do you?" "Not when I know you want to say yes." Emma rolled her eyes. "I'll think about it." "Good," Liam said. "I'll have a dress sent to your apartment." Liam. "See you Saturday, Emma." And with that, the line went dead. Emma stared at her phone. What the hell had she just gotten herself into? 2 days later, a box arrived at her door. Emma stared at it, hesitant. She hadn't officially agreed to go to the gala with Liam, but of course, that didn't stop him from assuming she would. With a sigh, she pulled the lid off. Her breath caught. The dress was a deep, elegant shade of navy, with delicate beadwork that shimmered under the light. It was easily the most beautiful thing she had ever seen. And it was also proof that Liam Callahan was dangerous. Because a man who could change her entire world with just a dress, that was a man she had no business getting close to. Emma stepped into the grand ballroom, heart pounding. The chandeliers glowed like stars, the polished floors gleamed, and the air buzzed with quiet conversations in hushed, elegant tones. This wasn't her world. But then she saw him. Liam stood near the bar, looking completely at ease in a black tux, his emerald green eyes flickering with something unreadable when he spotted her. Emma swallowed hard. She should have said no. She should have walked away. But now, it was far too late. Emma took a deep breath, willing her nerves to settle. She had spent years telling herself she didn't belong in places like this. Grand ballrooms, designer gowns, champagne toasts that cost more than her rent. And yet Liam Callahan had dragged her right into it. He moved toward her with that effortless confidence, his emerald eyes scanning her from head to toe. "You look stunning." Emma swallowed. He looked dangerous. Not in a physical way, but in the way a man could wreck your life without even trying. "This is insane," she muttered. "A little," Liam admitted, smirking. "But you're here, so I must have done something right." Emma sighed. "Remind me why I agreed to this." "Because you secretly enjoy spending time with me. Liam said easily. Emma scoffed. "Keep dreaming, Callahan." But Liam just laughed, the sound deep and rich. And for the first time that night, Emma wasn't nervous anymore. The gala was exactly what Emma expected. Rich people in designer clothes, networking over overpriced drinks, pretending to care about the charity they were funding. She sipped her champagne, listening as Liam made effortless small talk with some senator's wife. He was a master at this, reading the room, making people feel like they were the most important person there. And Emma realized Liam Callahan could get anything he wanted just by asking for it. "You're staring," Liam murmured suddenly, his lips curving as he turned to face her. Emma flushed. "I was just thinking how exhausting it must be to be you," she said, taking another sip of her drink. Liam chuckled. "Careful, Carter. You almost sound like you care." Emma rolled her eyes. "Let's not get carried away." Liam leaned in slightly, his voice dropping just for her. "Too late." Emma's breath hitched. Because for a moment, just a moment, it felt like the entire room had disappeared. Emma had just excused herself to the restroom when she heard her name. "Emma Carter, right?" She turned, finding herself face to face with a woman in a blood-red gown, sleek dark hair, and a sharp, knowing smile. Emma frowned. "Yes?" The woman tilted her head. "I'm surprised. Liam usually keeps things separate." Emma's stomach tightened. "I'm sorry, do we know each other?" The woman smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "I'm Vanessa Caldwell," she said smoothly, "and I know Liam very well." Emma went very still. "Let me guess," Vanessa continued. "He hasn't told you anything about me." Emma wasn't sure what she hated more, the way Vanessa said it so casually, or the fact that she might be right. When Emma found Liam again, he was speaking with another guest. But the second he saw her expression, his entire demeanor shifted. "What happened?" he asked immediately, guiding her toward a quieter corner of the room. Emma crossed her arms. "Who is Vanessa Caldwell?" Liam's jaw tightened. That was all the confirmation she needed. "So she's not just some random woman at this party," Emma said flatly. Liam sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "She's my ex-fiancée." Emma stared. "You're what?" "It was a long time ago," Liam said carefully. "And you weren't going to mention it." Liam exhaled sharply. "Emma, she's not important." "She seemed pretty important when she was warning me about you." Liam's eyes darkened. "What did she say?" Emma hesitated. "Just that you usually keep things separate." Liam's jaw clenched. "That sounds like Vanessa." Emma narrowed her eyes. "Liam, be honest with me. Am I walking into something I shouldn't?" Liam held her gaze. "No," he said, his voice steady. Emma wasn't sure if she believed him. But by the time the night was over, she knew one thing for sure. Liam Callahan had secrets. And if she wasn't careful, she was going to get caught in them. Emma's mind wouldn't stop spinning. The ride home from the gala had been silent, too silent. Liam hadn't pushed her to talk, but she could feel it. The shift, the weight of what Vanessa had said. And now, lying in bed hours later, Emma stared at the ceiling, her thoughts tangled. What if Vanessa was right? What if Liam was the type of man who kept things separate? And worse, what if she was just another temporary distraction? Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. Emma reached for it, her pulse quickening. Liam. Couldn't sleep either, huh? Emma exhaled, staring at the words. Then, against her better judgment, she typed back. Emma, too much on my mind. I'll take the blame for that. Emma hesitated before replying. Am I making a mistake, Liam? A long pause. Then. Liam, no. Emma, are you sure? Another pause. Then. Liam, ask me that again in person. Emma's stomach tightened. Because deep down, she knew this wasn't over. Not even close. The next morning, Emma walked into the office feeling different. Everything at Callahan Media was just as chaotic as usual. Phones ringing, reporters chasing deadlines, the scent of burnt coffee hanging in the air. But Emma wasn't focused on work. She was focused on Liam. So when she got a text from him that afternoon, telling her to meet him at his office, she didn't hesitate. But the second she stepped inside, she knew something was off. Liam stood by the window, his hands in his pockets, tense in a way she'd never seen before. Emma, he said, turning to face her. Liam. A beat of silence. Then. Vanessa wasn't wrong, Liam admitted. Emma's stomach dropped. So you do keep things separate, she said, voice careful. Liam exhaled, running a hand through his hair. I used to, he said. With Vanessa, with everyone before her. It was easier that way. And now? Liam's gaze locked onto hers. Now, I don't want to keep you separate from anything. Emma's heart pounded. Because this was the moment that could break her. Emma could have walked away. She could have told Liam she didn't trust him, that she couldn't risk getting hurt. But instead, she stepped closer. Then prove it. Liam held her gaze. How? Emma's pulse thundered. Let me in. Silence stretched between them. Then. Liam reached out, gently tucking a loose strand of hair behind her ear. All right, Carter, he murmured. Let's see how this goes. And just like that, she knew she was in far too deep. Liam Callahan was a man who thrived on control. Every part of his life was carefully curated. No loose ends, no unnecessary attachments, no chaos. But Emma Carter? She was chaos. Not in a reckless way, but in a way that unraveled him. She challenged him. She made him question things he'd never questioned before. And now, standing in his office, with her eyes searching his like she was waiting for him to prove himself, Liam realized something terrifying. He wanted to. For the first time in his life, he wanted to let someone in. All right, he said, his voice low. No more walls, no more keeping things separate. Emma studied him. You mean that? Liam nodded. Yeah, he do. Emma exhaled, crossing her arms. Then start by telling me the truth about Vanessa. Liam stiffened. Of course she'd go straight for the hardest part. Liam turned away, running a hand over his jaw. It ended years ago, he said, but it wasn't clean. She didn't take it well. Emma raised a brow. Did you break her heart, Callahan? Liam let out a dry laugh. I think she broke her own. Emma frowned. What does that mean? Liam hesitated, then sighed. Vanessa and I were never what people thought we were. It was calculated. A business arrangement more than anything else. Our families pushed us together, and for a while it made sense. Until Liam's jaw tightened. Until I realized I couldn't love her the way she wanted me to. Emma's heart twisted. Because suddenly she understood. Vanessa wasn't just an ex. She was a reminder of the man Liam used to be, of the man who kept things separate because it was easier than feeling anything real. And me? Emma asked, voice quiet. What am I? Liam turned back to her. The one thing I never saw coming. Emma swallowed hard. Because that was dangerous. That night, Emma sat alone in her apartment, replaying Liam's words in her head. The one thing I never saw coming. It should have made her feel safe. But instead, it made her feel like she was walking a tightrope with no safety net. Her phone buzzed. Liam, can I see you? Emma hesitated. She should say no. She should take a step back before this got even more complicated. But instead, she typed, Yeah. And just like that, she knew. She was falling. And there was no stopping it now. Liam showed up at her door less than 20 minutes later. He didn't hesitate. Didn't wait for an invitation. He just stepped inside, took one look at her, and closed the space between them. I don't do this, he murmured. I don't chase people, Emma. Emma's heart pounded. Then why are you here? Liam exhaled sharply. Because I can't stay away. And then he kissed her. It wasn't soft, it wasn't tentative. It was everything unsaid, everything unspoken, everything building between them since that flight. And for the first time in a long time, Emma didn't think. She just let herself fall. Emma woke up to sunlight streaming through her window.